When two police officers stopped a black man, Markus Bennett, at the entrance of the university, they had no idea they were detaining the new head of the police department. A crowd of students watched in shock as the blatant injustice unfolded before their eyes, and the footage recorded on cell phones quickly went viral, sparking a wave of public outrage. But that was only the first step. What followed upended the notion of justice and the power of one individual. You won't believe what happened next, but let's start from the beginning. Markus Bennett, a 45-year-old black man with a steady gaze and confidence in every movement, steps out of a black service car in front of the university building. His appointment as the new head of the police department had sparked lively discussions among the public and colleagues, with many viewing it as a symbol of the beginning of reforms. A crowd of students and faculty members gathered in the hall, chatting animatedly as they awaited his lecture on police reform. Markus heads toward the university entrance, but his path is blocked by two patrol officers who had been called due to an anonymous report about a suspicious individual near the campus. The officers stop him with stern looks. One of them, young and visibly nervous, loudly demands that he show his identification, eyeing Markus suspiciously from head to toe. Remaining calm, Markus displays his police badge, but the expressions on the officers' faces do not change. "I'm sorry, but you need to come with us," says the second officer, stepping forward and grabbing Markus by the arm. A few students exiting the building pause in bewilderment as they witness the scene. One of the students, recognizing Markus, pulls out their phone and begins recording. The officer, oblivious to the attention from onlookers, persists, roughly pushing Markus's hand away, which elicits murmurs of disapproval from passers-by. Understanding that the situation could quickly escalate, Markus tries to explain. "I am here by invitation from the university. I'm scheduled to give a lecture on police reform." However, his words do not reach the officers, whose faces flush with irritation. One of them sarcastically adds, "Listen, save the stories for someone else. People like you don't just walk in here." A tense pause follows as more students and faculty begin to gather at the scene. At this moment, the university dean, alarmed by the commotion, steps outside and is horrified to see their invited guest being detained in front of the campus. Markus Bennett, while not showing his growing unease, maintains his composure, but his eyes remain fixed on the officers, whose actions are becoming increasingly aggressive. The officers, ignoring his attempts to explain the situation, continue to apply pressure, showing no effort to hide their bias. One officer, with a mocking smirk, takes out handcuffs, clearly intending to use force. "You're being detained for further investigation," says the young officer in a loud voice, drawing the attention of even more students. Markus raises his hands to signal he is not resisting, but a shadow of displeasure crosses his face. A few students move closer, their phones at the ready, capturing every detail of the unfolding incident. The air becomes heavy with tension, punctuated by shouts of protest. "That's Markus Bennett! He's a guest lecturer!" someone from the crowd yells, but the officers act as though they don't hear, deafened by their own certainty. The officer with the handcuffs steps forward, and at that moment, a senior professor with graying hair, recognizing Bennett, intervenes. "Stop! This is a misunderstanding!" the professor exclaims, stepping between Markus and the officers. But the officers glare at him with disdain, feeling the pressure of the crowd while refusing to admit their mistake. The students begin shouting words of support, further intensifying the atmosphere. Cries of, "Leave him alone!" and "This is unlawful!" echo through the gathering. One student, the class president, goes live on social media, narrating the scene with a shaky voice. "We're standing here in front of the university, and the police are detaining our guest, Markus Bennett, the new head of the police department. This is shocking!" The crowd grows as university staff, security, and more faculty members arrive. The officers begin to realize that the situation is slipping out of their control, but it is too late. Videos of the incident are spreading rapidly on social media, and the students' shouts turn into a unified protest chant. Markus, raising his chin, looks the officers in the eyes and says, "You don't understand what you've just done, but you will soon." The situation reaches a new boiling point. Faculty members and university staff, including the dean with a worried expression, move closer. The dean quickly assesses what's happening, and seeing the officer still holding Markus, loudly declares, "Stop immediately! This man is our guest and a lecturer!" His voice is insistent and authoritative, drawing the attention of everyone present. The officers exchange glances, feeling uncertain for the first time. Their apprehension mixes with suspicion as they notice dozens of students holding up their phones, recording every moment. One officer frowns, realizing that the video has already spread too far for them to simply turn around and leave. The murmuring in the crowd grows louder, and some students shout, "Look, it's Bennett!" and "You've made a huge mistake." A bead of sweat forms on the young officer's face, the one who had just been gripping the handcuffs, as he realizes the gravity of his actions. It's too late. Several news outlets have already posted videos of the incident, calling it a shocking case of profiling at the university. Markus, freeing his arm and adjusting his suit sleeve slightly, steps forward and calmly states, "Thank you for such a vivid illustration of today's lecture topic." His voice is firm and assured, devoid of anger, but full of the conviction of someone who knows they are in the right. The officers freeze, realizing the scale of their mistake. The dean, pressing his lips together, quietly adds, "Your actions will be reviewed. Now let Markus proceed." The crowd parts, making way, and a hush falls as Markus moves toward the lecture hall. The officers slowly step back, a look of concern in their eyes. They understand that an inquiry, public criticism, and possibly the end of their careers are inevitable. Social media is buzzing with comments about the incident, and the video of Markus confidently walking toward the hall becomes a symbol of the fight against bias and injustice. Markus Bennett steps into the hall confidently, where students, faculty, and guests are gathered. The room is tense with silence, interrupted only by whispers and the sounds of phone notifications. Markus pauses for a moment at the podium, scanning the audience, then picks up the microphone and begins. "Today, we witness something that many of you know all too well. Bias in the system is a reality we face every day." His words resonate with the students. Many nod in agreement, while some hold back tears, realizing the significance of the moment. "But this is not the end," Markus continues. "We're not here to point fingers or place blame. We're here to change the system." At that moment, a live stream of his speech begins on the student channel, quickly amassing hundreds of thousands of views. Meanwhile, outside the university, local media gather around the campus building. The officers involved in the incident realize that their actions have become public knowledge and that consequences are inevitable. The police department announces an internal investigation and the temporary suspension of all involved. Markus concludes his lecture with words that become headlines. "Justice begins with each of us, and only by working together can we tear down the walls of prejudice." The audience responds with applause, many rising to their feet to show support for Markus. This moment becomes a symbol of change and a powerful example of how one person's courage can stir public consciousness. A few days later, the police release an official statement of apology, and the video of the incident continues to spread, sparking active discussions about reform. The officers involved in the detention publicly apologize, realizing their careers are on the brink of collapse. Markus, despite the upheaval, remains in his position and continues his fight for justice, becoming an even more recognized and respected leader. The story concludes with images of Markus walking across the university courtyard to the applause of students, symbolizing the start of a new chapter in the relationship between the police and the community.